Okay, so today's lesson focuses on just one concept, but it's super important for GCSE sociology, and that is the concept of primary socialisation. So your title today is primary socialisation, and your objective is to be able to define the concept of primary socialisation and give examples of how it is used. So, what is primary socialisation? And I apologise for the text on here, but we'll just whiz through as quickly as we can. Last lesson, you had a look at feral children, and I hope you found that interesting, and looked at what happens when children don't have a nurturing influence on them, and how they don't learn their norms and values. And socialisation is what we call that process where people, particularly children, learn the norms and values of their culture. So socialization is the process by which people learn the norms and values of their culture. We learn what's expected of us, we learn how to follow the rules, follow the expectations, and generally just get along in society or in a particular situation. And there are two types of socialization. First one is primary and the second one is secondary. So primary socialisation is what we're going to focus on today, and that's the first, obviously primary means first, the first things that you learn from your family and your early influences when you are a young child. So your family or the people who raise you when you are young teach you your culture. They are your first main influence. They are your agents. We call them agents of primary socialization. Feral children that we looked at last lesson are the result of having very poor or no primary socialization. So they don't have those first influences teaching them their norms and values. Secondary socialization is all of the other influences. You keep learning norms and values all the way through your life. And your school, your education, your religion, the media, your workplace, probably have more than one of those in your lifetime, are all part of your secondary socialization. But that's next lesson. So for today, I need you to understand that primary socialization is how your family or your early influence teach you your culture, how to get by in your culture, how to learn your norms and values. So, what do you learn as part of primary socialization? What I'd like you to do is make yourself, so pause the PowerPoint here or the video here, make yourself a spider diagram of all the things that your family has taught you. Now, it might be practical things, such as using a knife and fork, going to the toilet, or it might be values. We talked about those a couple of lessons ago, or beliefs. For example, the importance of kindness might be a value that your family holds very highly. How many can you think of? I've put 6 bubbles there just randomly, but you might come up with more. So pause, take a minute or two, and have a think about how many different things you have been taught as a result of your early family influences. Okay, so these are some of the things that I've just quickly come up with. Already mentioned, you're not born knowing how to use a knife and fork. You have to be taught how to do that. Potty training, every parent's dream. You are taught how to use the toilet properly, how to wash your hands. We've had to be re-socialized into that, haven't we, lately, about proper hand washing, 20 seconds and all that stuff. Your family also might teach you practical things like reading and writing. Most children can do little bits of letters, numbers, and writing stuff before they go to school, and that comes from their primary socialization. But your family don't just socialize you by teaching you practical things, they teach you beliefs and attitudes. They teach you those values that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. So they teach you things like hard work, they might teach you manners. We taught some of the norms you guys put in your work on norms the other week. Things like, you're taught to queue in the supermarket. You don't just, you aren't just born randomly knowing that you don't push in. You're taught to say please and thank you. You're taught to be respectful. Lots of discussion in the news at the moment about racism, and that's one of the things that you could argue children are taught to be racist or not racist as a part of their primary socialization. It's cultural. It's something that's instilled in us from a very young age. All of these things and more help you to live in society in harmony with others. Can you imagine if the family didn't do these things, that society would be in chaos? Can you imagine going into a restaurant if people hadn't been taught to use knives and forks properly? I don't even want to go there with the toilet training stuff. If we didn't have families teaching these basic things, reception classes and preschools would be in a right pickle because they'd have a lot of work to do. How does the family do this then? Well, there's three main ways that you need to know about. So firstly, parents show their children how to behave. So they instruct them and they demonstrate. So they will teach them by following them how to use a knife and fork, potty training, instructing children about what to do. Secondly, parents are role models. I hope you all kind of know what that means. So children look up to their parents. I bet if you guys were to ask the people who'd raised you from a young age what you used to do, but there will be stories, I'm sure, of you wearing your parents' clothes or your parents' shoes, of getting into your parents' makeup bags and wanting to use their perfume or aftershave and things like that. Children naturally want to copy and imitate the behaviour of those around them, especially their parents. We are almost taught to look up to our parents and want to be like them. And sanctions. So I'm hoping you know what sanctions mean. Sanctions mean consequences, and they can be positive or negative. So parents use positive and negative consequences, rewards and punishments to teach children what's expected of them. You're taught, sticker charts. I'm thinking if you've ever seen the program Super Nanny, all of those things help to teach children how to behave appropriately according to society's norms and values. So your little task that I'd like you to do to finish the lesson, a nice little short lesson today, I'd like you to draw a little sketch for each of these three ways that the family teaches norms and values. So draw a little picture, and then can you explain how it might teach children what's expected of them? So how does a parent's actions influence what children get from primary socialization? So not too much to do today. I hope it all makes sense. As always, my email is on the Show My Homework post. Email me any questions, and don't forget to upload for me a quick picture of what you've done, just because it's really helpful for me to see what people have understood and what they might be struggling with. So please do that. Any questions, please just email.